Welcome students. So, after working out these 4 variances, labor cost, LRPB, LEB and the labor idle time variance, now we have to calculate the 2 remaining variances, in this case labor mix variance and the labor yield variance. So, as I told you that we have to check in case of the labor mix variance that whether the standard time and the actual time are same or not. So, we know that means the total number of hours for which actually the labor has worked means the total number of hours, that is the 2000 hours minus the idle time. So, the remaining time left was 1880. So, in that case now we will have to find out the standard time and then the actual time, but we have to means work out the standard time by taking this total time as 1880 and then proportionately distributing it amongst the skilled, semi-skilled and the unskilled workers. So, if you do this, so for calculating this, so this is total is 2000 hours minus 120 hours for which the work could not be done. So, we are left with the 1880 hours. So, now for calculating the labor mix variance or the gang composition variance, what we are going to do here is that we are going to calculate it for the 3 different categories of the workers. First workers are skilled workers, and in case of the skilled workers, labor mix variance is going to be how much? You have to now we have the total number of workers, that is 244 in case of the skilled, semi skilled and unskilled, and total time we have worked is that is 1880 hours, that is 2000 minus 120. So, now we have to divide that 1880 in the proportion of or in the ratio of 2:4:4, and then we see that this is the standard time in case of the skilled category, this is actual time in case of the skilled category. So, is there any difference in the time or not? So, we will have to see the category wise also, and we will have to see now the total time also. So, if you see the total time, because the formula requires total actual time divided by the total standard time. So, total actual time, if it comes out as 1880 in case of standard and the say actual also, so it means there is no difference and you can use the formula number 2 simply by revising the standards. So, in this case skilled category, what is the total amount? 1880, right. So, now we have to convert that into the proportion of 2/10. How many are the standard skilled workers? 2/10, and this amount comes up as how much? 376 hours, 376 hours. And what is the actual time? Actual time are again 2 workers, and 2 workers if they have worked for, and 1 worker has worked for how much? If this is the 1880, so what is in this case? If you look at this total number of workers, again they are also 10. So, 10 divided by 1880 divided by 10, it means if you put it here 1880 divided by 10. So, this works out as actually this works out as 188 hours. And how many are the actual skilled workers we have put on the job? They are 2. So, if you multiply by 2, this works out as how much? Again 376. So, it means if you take this variance and you have to multiply it with something like the the rate, labor mix variance. And what is the rate? The rate here is standard rate is rupees. How much is the standard rate? Rupees 20. So, this variance will become, what is this variance? This variance is basically nil. So, how I am using this formula? What is the second formula? That the standard time minus means total standard time minus total actual time. So, you can rewrite this formula in a way, this way also, that for example, your formula could be standard mix of actual hours worked, standard mix of actual hours worked minus actual hours and multiplied by standard rate per hour, So, standard mix of actual hours worked. So, basically it is the say total standard cost of the standard mix minus total cost of the actual mix. So, standard cost of the standard mix is, we have converted that standard mix of the actual hours worked. So, it is the standard mix of actual hours worked and multiplying it by the standard rate per hour will become the standard cost of standard mix minus standard cost of the actual mix. So, if you use this formula, what I have used here is standard mix of the actual hours worked. Actual hours worked are 1880 and standard mix of that is 2 by 10 in the ratio of 2:4:4. So, this works out as 376 minus 376 is the actual, that is 2 actual workers, and per worker this number of hours are 188. So, it means total number of hours put in by the skilled category of the workers are 376, multiplying it by rupees 20. So, it means you can say that this variance is 376 minus 376 into 20 is nil, that is in case of the skilled category of the workers. Now, we calculate the semi skilled category of workers, and in case of the semi skilled category of the workers, again you have to convert the standard mix of the actual hours worked. So, 1880 into 4 by 10, this will come up as how much? 752, right? And how much is the actual? Actual workers were how many? Actual workers were 3, means the semi skilled actual workers we have put on the job are 3, and 1 man hour per worker has put in how many hours? 188. So, 188 into 3, this works out as how much? 564, 564, and if you multiply this by how much? You multiply it by rupees 12, because the standard price was rupees 10, actual was 14, but the standard price was 10. So, in this case, if you look at this part, this variance comes up as rupees how much? 752 minus 564 into 12, this variance becomes rupees 2256, and this is the favorable variance, because standard time was more, actual time used is less. So, it is the semi skilled is the favorable variance. And now, we go for the unskilled. In case of the unskilled category, again same, you are converting the standard mix of the actual hours worked, again multiplying it by 4 by 10. This again comes up as how much? This will be the same, that is 752 minus, then we have the actual hours worked are how many? 5 workers, and 188 into 5 becomes how much? This is 940. This is 752 minus 940, and multiplying by how much? Rupees 8. This is the standard rate. So, this works out as how much? 1504, and this 1504 is adverse. 1504 is adverse. So, this is the total labor mix variance. If you calculate this labor mix variance here, total for all the 3 category of the workers, this will come up as how much? This will be 0 in first case, this is the one, this is the second, and this is the third. One is the favorable, another is the unfavorable. So, the net result comes out as that is 752 rupees, 752, but it is favorable. This variance is favorable, because semi skilled is favorable, unskilled is unfavorable. So, it means finally this variance is 752, which is favorable. Now, the last variance in this category we will calculate is the LYB, labor yield variance. And in case of the labor yield variance, the formula is actual yield minus standard yield. If you calculate is the standard labor cost per unit, the formula is standard labor cost per unit into actual yield minus standard yield, actual yield minus standard yield. So, we are given here standard unit labor cost we have already calculated. What is the standard labor cost per unit? We have already calculated, that is standard labor cost per unit we have calculated. The first question which we answered was rupees 30, right? And what is the actual yield here? In this case, if you look at the actual yield is already given to us, that is 810. And what is now the standard yield? Standard yield expected was how much? Because we worked for how many? That is, we worked for total number of gang hours are how many? 188 gang hours, and in this case, if you have to find out 188 gang hours and multiplied by total number of hours we have put in by the gang are 188, right? 200 minus 12 is 188, and what is the output per hour? That is 4 units. 4 units. So, this will become how much? Rupees 30 into 810 minus this is 188 into 4 is 752. This is 752 units, right. So, if you calculate this, this will come up as rupees, finally the variance will work out as rupees how much? This will be you can call it as 1740 but favorable. 1740 is going to be the favorable variance. So, it means the total standard labor cost per unit was how much? Standard labor cost is total labor cost was 120 and then say the total output in 1 hour was 4 units. So, the standard labor cost per unit works out as 30, which was the first question we answered while solving this problem. And then we have inside the bracket is the actual yield minus standard yield. Actual yield is how much? 810 units, which is given to us, and the standard was for 188 hours. The total number of the workers have worked, and per hour the gang output per hour is 4 units. So, 188 gang hours into 4, that works out as 752. So, if you calculate this labor yield variance, this will be we have found out here is that is 1740, this is favorable. Now, let us apply the check here that whether it is all these 3 variances are equal to the labor efficiency variance or not. So, it should be equal to LITV plus LMV plus L by V, right. So, labor efficiency variance was how much was the labor efficiency variance? We had to calculate the labor efficiency variance, and if you look at the labor efficiency variance, this was 1100 favorable. This variance is 1100 favorable. So, this is 1100 favorable. Labor idle time variance is how much? If you look at the labor idle time variance in this case was 13, let us go back and check it. Yeah, labor idle time variance is 1392, 1392, it is adverse, right, plus labor mix variance is how much? 752 favorable, this is favorable, plus 1740, this is again favorable. If you total these up, this is again favorable. So, this works out as how much? This is 2492, these two, this plus this comes up as 2492 and minus 1392. So, this will come up as finally 1100 favorable is equal to 1100 favorable. Both are favorable, both the variances we have worked out here are favorable. So, it means they are favorable. So, we are able to find out here by applying the check that this variance is favorable, this variance is favorable. So, it means when we calculated all these variances in this composite case, which where we had to address so many problems. So, first was to find out the standard labor cost per unit, which was 30 rupees we found out, and then we had to go for finding out the labor cost variance. We found out after adjusting the standards, upscaling the standards, revising the standards, we found out that the labor cost variance is still negative, that is by 2100. Then we further dissected it. So, we found out that labor rate has caused the main labor cost variance being negative, whereas the labor efficiency is still positive. And then we further dissected. So, we found out that if you take into consideration the labor idle time of the 12 hours of the total gang, means which works out as 10 workers into 12 is 120 hours out of 2000 hours total. So, the labor has worked actually for the 1880 hours, and then on the basis of that, when we calculated the labor mix variance and the labor yield variance, we found out that labor efficiency variance is 1100 favorable, 1100 favorable, and there everything has contributed. We have segregated the idle time also because it was abnormal, uncontrollable. So, it is not the reflection on the efficiency of the labor. Labor has not contributed to that idle time. They were available, but the machine breakdown was there. If you talk about the mix variance, we have to again check it up. We applied the second formula for the mix variance, and why I applied the second formula for the mix variance? We checked up the total, total you can call it as the number of hours. So, total standard hours for how many? If you total up these three, that is the 376 plus 752 plus 752, this works out as how much? 188, 1880, and what is the actual? Actual, if you take these three, this is the one, this is the another, this is another, this is also, say you can call it as 1880. So, it means 1880 is equal to 1880 after say readjusting the standards and working out the proportions in the ratio of 2:4:4. So, we could find out that both the hours that is 1880 is equal to the, means standard time is equal to the actual time. So, we applied the second formula because there is no difference in the actual time and standard time. So, we worked out this labor mix variance, which further came up as favorable, and then we calculated the labor efficiency variance, labor yield variance, and when you calculated the yield variance, means the actual yield was higher, very high, 810 units, and if you go by these standards, that total number of hours for which actually the labor worked was 188 hours, and per hour output was how many? 4 units. So, means standard expected production was 752 units, but actual output has gone up to 810 units. So, it all has become possible because of the efficiency of the labor. So, labor's efforts are appreciable, but only one negative part here is in this whole exercise is the labor rate. We have been able to control the rate of the skilled labor, but in case of the unskilled labor and in case of the semi skilled labor, the rate paid was higher, and maybe sometime it is beyond the control of anybody within the organization, because labor comes from the outside. So, if the labor rates change because of the changes in the dynamics of the labor market, nobody can help it out. You have to hire the workers, you have to run the plant, you have to go for the production, and you have to pay the higher payment. So, largely it looks like that labor cost variance is negative, that is by 2100, but it is still within the control. So, further analysis in this kind of situation I do not think it is required, because it is within the permissible limit, and when we further dissected it, we found out that largely the reason is uncontrollable. LITB, labor idle time, was also because of the machine breakdown. So, nobody has contributed to that machine breakdown, it was out of the situation. And the second reason for this negative variance of 2100 was labor cost variance negative 2100 was the labor rate. So, labor rate is not in the control, not in the hands of anybody. So, here the management may finally decide that whatever has been decided as a standard, or what was the standardized labor cost, and with regard to that the total output, everything has been within the control. Only two factors have contributed, and these two factors are beyond the control, uncontrollable factors, whether it is the machine breakdown or whether it is the labor rate, it is not in the control of anybody, and the difference is expected to be there. So, if finally again before closing down the discussion on the labor variances, I would reiterate that if there is any kind of the variance because of the uncontrollable factors, nobody should be held responsible. But yes, if the variance is because of the controllable factors and those factors are not controlled, and that has contributed to the excess payment to the labor or the increased overall labor cost, in that case we have to be very careful, we have to analyze those reasons, and we have to find out the causes for those reasons, and we have to eliminate those reasons, so that finally the standard and the actual labor cost is within the control, it is same, and we are able to finally control the overall cost of the production. So, till now you might have seen that how we calculate the material variances, how we calculate the labor variances, and these two components of the total cost of the product, they somehow constitute about 80 to 85% of the cost of the product, 80 to 85% cost of the product. So, even if you are able to control these two broader components and even the third component, that is the other overheads, if they are even ignored, then it is not going to make any difference, means the largely for example, if 85% is the cost of the product, because of for example 10 rupees is the total cost of the product. If you talk about if this pen is there and this pen is costing us 100 rupees, say this pen is costing us 100 rupees, it means 85 rupees of this pen's cost is because of the two elements of the material and labor. So, if you want to reduce the cost of the pen, if you want to further reduce, maybe because of any reason, you want to increase your own profits in the of the firm, or there is a stiff competition in the market because others have lowered down the price from the 100 to 98 or 96, something like that. So, if we want to control the cost, we have to first focus upon the material and the labor component, and since we know it, in this case the total contribution of the material and labor is 85 rupees. Even you are able to reduce this cost by 10%, which is not a means unachievable target. 10% reduction in the cost is not an unachievable target. You can look for the labor from the markets where it is available at the lesser price. We can bring the labor on the long term basis and we can pay them the lesser price if it is possible. We can look for the avenues of the material from the markets or the sources of the material from the markets where it is available at the lesser price, good quality materials. So, if you are able to reduce the cost of material and labor even by a small amount of, or a say insignificant amount of the 10%, then the total cost of this product will be coming down by how much? 8 rupees 50 paisa. 8 rupees 50 paisa. It means in that case now the cost of the pen will come down from the 100 rupees to 100 rupees to 91 rupees and 50 paisa. So, it means this is a serious reduction in the cost. So, actually we were selling the pen for 100 rupee or maybe 105 rupees because it was costing us 100 rupees, and now if you are able to reduce it by say 10% and now the cost has come down to 91.5 rupees, it means without any pressure in the market in terms of the price, the firm's profit will increase. The firm's profit will increase by that 8 rupees and 50 paisa because the cost has come down. Selling price is same, that is 105 in the market for example. So, that will add into 5 rupees the existing profit plus the saving on this material and the labor cost by 850 paisa. So, now the firm's profit will become 13 rupees and 50 paisa per unit of the product, which is a very significant amount, and this all has been possible or would be possible if you control the material cost and the labor cost, right. And controlling the material cost and the labor cost, one technique we discuss here is that is the standard costing, because if you have pre-worked everything, it remains communicated to all and means people in the production, in the purchase, in the usage of the material departments, processing departments, they remain very careful that this is the standard of the material and this should be the standard cost of the material. Similarly, in case of the labor also, we have to be very careful in terms of the efficiency of the labor, in terms of the price of the labor, and finally the actual cost can be within the control or can be means within a limit which is decided or pre-decided as a standard. So, finally this technique of the costing is very helpful in the day to day management decision making and keeping the cost of the product under control. Now, third variance is the overhead variances. Third contribution of the cost of the production is direct cost of the production I am talking about, not indirect cost. Direct cost of the production is the material cost, labor cost and other overheads cost. Other overheads cost now will be the third thing we will be going to discuss, but I will not discuss this overhead variances in detail. First we will have a broad idea about what are the overheads, how we will calculate these overhead variances. There are so many overhead variances which can be calculated. Number one is basically the overheads can be divided into two broad categories, fixed overheads and the variable overheads. Fixed overheads and variable overheads. Fixed overhead are those overheads which remain fixed, whether you go for production of 1 million units, 1 lakh units, 1 unit or 10 units. They are not going to change. To some extent you can call that overhead cost as a sunk cost. You go for the production, you do not go for the production, you have to pay for the fixed overheads. Variable overheads only take place when we go for the production. If you produce 1 lakh units, your variable overheads will be like that in proportion to that production. If you produce 1 unit, your variable overheads will be in that proportion, and if you go for the production of 10,000 units, your variable overheads will be like that. So, number one, while learning about the overhead variances, we will learn about the fixed and the variable overheads. I explained to you what are the fixed overheads and what are the variable overheads. For example, the salaries of employees who are hired on the permanent basis, or the depreciation of the plant is a sort of, you can call it as a permanent cost. Whether you use the plant, you do not use the plant, your plant is getting depreciated. Then can be variable cost. For example, the power. Power will be the variable, because if you go for the production you will use the power, but if you do not go for the production you will not use the power. So, we will have to now, means after understanding the meaning of fixed and variable overheads, we will learn that how to calculate the overhead variances. For calculating the overhead variances, now the important question which you have to means answer with yourself, or I am going to tell you, you should be clear with that when you calculate the overhead variances, we calculate these overhead variances in relation to of either material or labor. We do not calculate them in isolation as we calculated in case of material or we calculated in case of labor. We assume here that overheads are counted in the total cost of the production in relation to or as a proportion of material or labor. We interpret it like this. Say the material cost of per unit of this pen is, you can call it as 50 rupees or 55 rupees. Labor cost will be 25 rupees or 20 rupees, and overheads will be, total overheads will be 10% of the material or 10% of the labor. It can be either way. We have to decide the best possible common denominator for calculating the overhead cost, and we do not directly count it that what will be the overhead variance, fixed overhead variance or the variable overhead variance. First we will say that overhead expected to be spent for manufacturing the 1 unit of the product will be 10% of the material or 10% of the labor. So, we have to calculate the overhead variances in relation to either material or in relation to either, or in say proportion or in relation to labor, in relation to material or in relation to the labor. And after that, means both the formulas should be with us. Both the formulas should be with us. If you want to calculate as a proportion of material, which formula we will use? If you want to calculate as a proportion of labor, which formula we will use? And there are so many overhead variances which can be calculated. Say for example, first we will calculate the total overhead variance, right, total overhead cost variance. Then we will segregate or dissect that into two sub variances, fixed overhead cost variance and the variable overhead cost variance. And further we have so many subdivisions of this fixed overhead variance and the variable overhead variance, but I will not go up to that detail, because the reason is that this cost is not very significant, only 10-15% maximum. So, if you know the broader concept of the overhead variances, that they are calculated in relation to the material or labor, and overheads are basically of the fixed or the variable type, and we can calculate the three larger variances: total overhead cost variance and the variable overhead variance and then the fixed overhead variance, that will serve our purpose. If you want to learn further more in detail about the overhead variances, they are given in the books. You can refer to the books I have given in the course plan, and for this particular topic, standard costing, you should refer to the book, that is the Management Accounting by Khan and Jain. It is a McGraw-Hill production, this is a McGraw-Hill publication, and it is a very good book for understanding this topic, that is the standard costing as a tool of management decision making or as a tool of controlling the cost of production. Most of the problems which I discussed here means whatever the 3, 4, 5 problems we discussed with regard to material or labor, I have also referred to the same book, that is the Management Accounting by Khan and Jain. So, if you want to learn in detail about the overhead variances, I will stop here by calculating 3 variances: total overhead variance, total overhead cost variance, and then the other 2, that is the fixed overhead variance and the variable overhead variance. There are the further dissections of the fixed overhead variance. Fixed overhead variances like say further are fixed overhead expenditure variance, then fixed overhead your say your calendar variance, capacity variance. So, different variances are there in case of the fixed overheads, and in case of the variable overheads also we have the variable overhead expenditure variance and the variable overhead efficiency variance, but I think that much of analysis is not required because of the shortage of the time here. In 30 hours we have to learn some important techniques So, in summarized form I will discuss with you the overhead variances and only 3 variances we will calculate. Here one important point to be borne in mind is that when you talk about the overhead cost, as I told you, overheads can be fixed or can be variable. So, the behavior of the fixed overhead and the variable overheads per unit is different. See, per unit the fixed overhead cost is, the relationship is inverse. Larger the production, fixed overhead cost per unit comes down. Lesser the production, fixed overhead cost per unit goes up. So, it is the inverse relationship, right, because fixed cost remains the same. For example, fixed cost is 100 rupees and you produce 100 units. So, fixed cost is 1 rupee, but if you only manufacture 50 units, so fixed cost will go up to 2 rupees, right, and if you manufacture 200 units, fixed cost, overhead cost will come down to 50 paisa per unit, because fixed remaining fixed, fixed cost, fixed overhead remaining fixed, production is changing. So, larger the production, per unit cost will come down, and lesser the production, per unit cost will go up. But this behavior is direct, or you can call it as proportionate with regard to the variable overheads. Higher the amount of production, higher the amount of variable overheads, lesser the amount of production, lesser the amount of the variable overheads. So, the relationship as far as the per unit cost is concerned, it is direct with regard to the variable overheads and it is inverse with regard to the fixed overheads. So, after this basic introduction and some say throwing some light on the overhead variances and explaining the importance of the overhead variances and explaining it to you that how we will calculate the overhead variances, whether in relation to or in proportion to material or in proportion to labor, then now we will start learning about how to calculate the overhead variances, and then means 3 variances we will calculate. So, these overhead variances, first we will learn the formulas and then we will solve 1 or 2 problems, and after that I will close the discussion on the standard costing part, and next technique we will start learning about is the marginal costing. So, overhead variances I will discuss with you in the next class. Thank you very much.